Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Joining us here for the weekly roundup, myself and Paul, and joining esteemed guest, also Gregory Doyle. And we're going to be talking through, obviously, the big fight at Wembley Stadium this week. And we're going to touch on that. We're going to touch, as usual, on an undercard fight from that event. And also we're going to touch on an under-the-radar fight. I'm not going to tell you which either of those are yet. So we'll reveal those as and when we come to them. I want to say, first and foremost, thank you, gents, for taking the time out to speak to me here. I know what you guys might have noticed in a big fight build-up is that obviously a lot of these sort of videos tend to have guys, very passionate guys talking, but guys who aren't necessarily been there and done it and who have fought themselves. Whereas what makes today so special is the two guys that are joining me have fought themselves. Gregory Doyle, obviously a successful amateur boxer from around the Glasgow area, and Paul Kelly, a man who was due to fight last week, I believe, but the fight unfortunately fell through, but it's due to be rescheduled, fell through no fault of Paul's own. So hopefully those two guys can offer us some technical insight as well, which is often lacking in a lot of these videos, but not this one today. So first and foremost, we'll go into the fight at Wembley Stadium this weekend, Dillian Whyte versus Tyson Fury, the WBO Heavyweight Championship. Now, guys, we've talked to you and I, all of us, along with another member of our team, previously about this fight, and we've given kind of our initial thoughts. That was some time ago. That was a couple of weeks ago. Now, obviously, things are starting to narrow down. We're starting to get more promotional material. We're starting to see more images, even of Dillian Whyte in the sort of state and condition that he's in. And I was wondering, I'm going to come to you, actually, Greg, first, because you were the member of the team that said they had it the closest. I think you had it 65-35 sort of Fury to win. Is there anything that you've seen over the last couple of weeks that have changed those percentages, those odds for you at all?
First of all, thanks for having us. Elliott, that build-up was great. I'm sure many will disagree, but I appreciated it. No, to answer you, mate, it's difficult because White's been very quiet, hasn't he? We've not seen a lot. We've not seen him training. I haven't even seen a lot of Tyson Fury training. It all seems to be a little bit hush-hush, but Fury's been very vocal. If anything more, I maybe slightly leaned more towards Fury, only just because I seen an interview with Whyte on BT. I don't know if any of you guys caught it. It's like the only media work he's done so far. And I don't really know why it made me just slightly more edge towards Fury. There was just like the whole, I've came up the hard way. The fact that I'm here, it's even a bonus. I know it's a really hard fight, and I don't know, he just didn't give me the vibe. I wanted to hear him say, I'm going to get in there and I'm going to really do a number on him, and I didn't really see that. So, yeah, just very slightly edging more towards Fury, but nothing much has changed for me.
Paul, we were speaking off camera, you were saying that obviously from what you've seen, it's rumoured that Fury's going to come in heavy. And some of the stuff I've seen on BBC, it's rumoured, I saw that Dillian Whyte also looked heavy in comparison to his usual frame. Is there anything that you look into that, reading at it, and give either men more of an advantage than you thought previously? Do you see it playing out the same way?
I do see it playing out the same way, but because I do think the Fury will win by stoppage. But I don't know. It's maybe when that comes. My opinion's slightly changed on that. Yeah, because I think Fury's the heaviest he's fought at in the ring is 277, and they were saying there's rumours that he could be coming in at 285 plus. And apparently he looks absolutely massive, and there was something about his nutritionist was saying about coming in heavy, and Sugar Hill Stewart as well. So it'll be interesting. But then you know Fury's the king of all of this, all this talking pre-fight. So it wouldn't surprise me if he came in unreal shape with nearly some abs or something. Do you know what I mean? Do I think that after seeing, hadn't seen anything of Dillian Whyte at all when we did that first video. Now, he's put out a tweet saying he's ready for the Wembley fight, and then he's done that interview with Steve Bunce and stuff as well. I don't know. I have to agree with Greg in the sense that I don't think he oozed confidence, unless he's just wanting to hold that all back and doesn't want to come across as arrogant, or he's just like, I'm going to let Fury do all of the talking here, really. But I didn't really see anything from Whyte that made me think, oh, okay, yeah, you're up for this, you're ready for it. I'm sure he is up for it. He's a heavyweight boxer and he's got a world title shot. But no, I if anything, I do still think Fury by emphatic victory.
Well, I'm glad you mention talk about pre-fight build-up, pre-fight talk, because BBC have recently, David Culver's been on there, and I don't know whether he's hyping this or because he has previously worked with Dillian that he's coming out with some of the quotes that he's coming out or drawing it closer possibly than it should be. But essentially what he was saying, I'll paraphrase for you guys if you haven't seen it. So he's saying essentially that obviously Dillian's a great body puncher. He's called the body snatcher. He has some vicious body punches, and I think that he has to do that in this fight. Now, Greg, I'm going to come to you here and I'm going to ask you two questions. One, do you think Dillian Whyte deserves the nickname the body snatcher? And two, can you see, I mean, we've seen Fury obviously down, but not necessarily to the body, obviously to the chin. Do you see the potential for Dillian Whyte to stop him to the body in this fight or not?
No, because I don't think it sounds silly, but he doesn't really merit the nickname because he's not, unless I've missed something in some of his fights, he does a lot of his important work to the body before he finishes up top. He's well known for that left hook to the head, so it doesn't make sense to me. To answer your question about Fury and being stopped with a body shot, going back to what Paul said, I find that really interesting. That makes me think a few different things in my mind because I didn't know that Fury was thinking about coming in heavier if this is the case. Why would you do that when you're a superior boxer to somebody like Dillian Whyte? Come in at a decent weight where you're heavier than him and you can bully him, but also at a weight where you can be on your toes and box and things. I don't understand that. But to answer your question, no, I could only maybe see him slowing Fury down to the body, but be very surprised if he decks Tyson Fury with a body shot.
Yeah, I don't want to. So obviously, we'll try and get this rattled through quicker than the usual video. But I'm aware this is a massive fight, so I'll cover a couple more quotes. I'm going to come to you here, Paul. So Colbo was also saying Tyson looked fantastic in the second fight versus Wilder. Third fight technically looked terrible. The words of Colbo, not me. If Dillian can drag him into that kind of fight, then it's a shootout, and you don't necessarily know who's going to win a shootout. Do you think Dillian Whyte possesses the power to stop Tyson Fury if it comes to that kind of fight?
I think Dillian Whyte's powerful, but can he stop Fury? No. And the reason I'm saying that is because if you're looking at Wilder in all three fights, Fury took a hell of a lot of digs from Wilder, got decked however many times between the three fights, and still got up every single time. And Wilder is a ferocious puncher. You know, people are saying he's one of the biggest punchers in recent heavyweight history, and he's definitely a bigger puncher than Dillian Whyte for me. So if Fury can take Wilder's best shots, I don't see him not being able to take Dillian Whyte's best shots as well.
Thank you, Paul. And Greg, I'll come to you. There's another one. I'll come to you both here because obviously there's a technical question to be had here. So Sugar Stewart himself has said that he believes that Dillian's improved a lot over his last, I think he was referencing some of his time from Tibbs up to his time now, saying that his jabs got significantly better and they've been working to kind of nullify that. And then also that obviously to use, well, beyond the jab, obviously the jab to set up other sort of work, but essentially to try and use Tyson's use his footwork and distance to essentially nullify that. Do you think saying that this fight can literally be reduced simply to who has the superior footwork?
I think it's not really a competition if it comes down to footwork. I think we know that Tyson Fury is a far superior boxer, far better mover on his feet than Dillian Whyte. I actually think Whyte's went back the way a little bit since he left Mark Tibbs, if I'm being honest with you. But I do think it's capable. Going back to the question you asked, Paul, I think Dillian Whyte, I know you guys think, I think he can knock Tyson Fury out. Is Deontay Wilder a bigger puncher than him? Absolutely. Absolutely. It's not even in question. See, sometimes it's a technique in the way these shots get thrown, and the moment and the time. If you stand off and let Deontay Wilder throw a big hard 1-2 and let Dillian Whyte do it, Deontay Wilder's going to throw it better. But see the technique to come round and get a left hook off inside. Dillian Whyte can do that a lot better than what Deontay Wilder can. So sometimes it's not really about the actual power in the shot. It's about the technique and how it's delivered as well, because that can actually increase the power. But yeah, to answer your question, I don't think footwork's even a competition in that fight, if I'm being honest.
And Paul, would you echo those sentiments? Do you think that Dillian Whyte's improved necessarily coming into this fight, or do you think that essentially he's hit a kind of level and has just kind of got through the opponents that he's faced since, I suppose you could say, the second Chisora fight?
I think it's a difficult one to answer actually, because if you had have asked that question pre the Povetkin knockout loss, you would have said, yeah, he has improved. Then that happened, and then in the rematch, he obviously got the job done, and he did look a bit better. but that was a Povetkin who'd apparently been suffering a lot from COVID, and let's be honest, he was just old as well. But I think it's really difficult to say as well because of how inactive Dylan Whyte's been. He's had 2 fights in 2 years as well, and I know Fury has been quite inactive, the last 5 or so years of his career. But even Fury's been more active than Whyte by quite some distance recently. I think he's had double the amount of fights in the last couple of years. So I don't really think that I think it's difficult to tell with Whyte because of the inactivity. And, obviously he was meant to fight Otto Wallin as well. And I thought that was a great fight. I would have been interested in that fight. So to answer your question, I don't know. No, has he improved? Yeah, he probably has aspects of his game, but I don't know if we've seen it all yet. So, hopefully for his sake, it comes together on Saturday.
I want to finish off just this roundup with this fight by I know, Paul, I know you're the specialist betting man, and Greg, you're the specialist prediction man. So we're going to bring those two together. I'm going to talk a little bit about obviously some of the odds that we've seen. Tyson Fury 4-1, I think, to finish it win the first 6 rounds, but also Dillian Whyte, I think 9-2 to also win the fight. So just as a last minute sort of prediction, guys, if you just give me who you think is going to win, and then maybe a split round range of say 4 rounds, if it's going to be knockout or if it's points, obviously it's points. And Paul, I'm going to come to you first.
I'm still big on the Fury knockout. No matter what weight he comes in at or how good Dylan Whyte is, I think he'll stop him. And I could see it being, I would have said the first 6 rounds. I like that 4-1 in the first 6 rounds. But if you want to do 4 rounds, maybe 4-7 roughly. I think it'll be in the middle rounds, but the earlier the middle rounds.
Gregory, same question to you. Prediction, and then just if you can give a round range if you're going to predict KO, please.
Yeah, I fancy Fury 7-11. The reason I do is because I think that it will be competitive at times, and I think that Whyte might think he's got him hurt and absolutely empty the can, and then the last couple of rounds it might be Fury just picking him off and then stopping him on his feet. So Fury 7-11 for me if I was a
Great, thank you very much, chaps. I think I was initially asked what I thought of the 4-1, 1-6. It is a tough sort of rank. You think maybe Fury can just wait a little, essentially, for Whyte to tire and then finish and stop him late. Depends what sort of tactics I suppose he brings into it. Obviously, I'm going to predict Fury KO as well. I was actually going to go somewhere around 5-8. So I'm
I thought you were going to say 1-2.
We've all gone with the Fury victory. Now I'm going to come to Gregory, who's going to talk us through the undercard fight of this week. Greg, over to you. What have you selected, please?
Yes, guys, so thank you very much for that. The fight I want to talk to you about is on the undercard of Fury and Whyte, and it is between Isaac Lowe, who is 21-1-3, 3 being a draw, or 3 draws, I should say. He takes on a guy that I've not really heard too much about now. I know that Paul Kelly knows a bit about him, so this is why I'm interested to cover this fight off. Nick Ball, who is 14-0, 7 stoppages. I'm hearing a few whispers about this boy Ball. I'm hearing that Lowe is right up for this, so basically, the first question I want to come and ask, I'll go to you, Elliott, because I want to leave and see what Paul tells me about Nick Ball, because I'll be honest, I don't know a lot about him. What do you know about this fight coming in? Do you know much about Nick Ball? Do you know a lot about?
I don't know. So I've watched Isaac Lowe a bit solely because obviously he's been on Fury undercards previously, but equally, I haven't seen a lot about Nick Ball, but I'm also knowing what I do know about him essentially is from what Paul and other people have been saying, and some of the prediction guys have been saying, is that actually this is a fight where, in many ways, I think a lot of guys are picking him to actually win. Now, you're looking at it, I suppose, he's obviously 25. Isaac Lowe's a little bit older. I think Isaac Lowe's 28 maybe, I think now. So it's like, again, they're both kind of in their primes. It's a lot more fights. So it's one of those tough ones where I'm looking at experience versus some guy who's, I suppose, slightly less experienced. But equally, if you look at his record, obviously it's hard as well, 50% KO percentage. But then, you've not really gone beyond 8 rounds before. Isaac Lowe has. This is a 12-round fight. I'm still, to be honest, I was still kind of leaning towards Isaac Lowe points. But equally, I'm just basing that, I suppose, mostly I'm not seeing too much of Nick Ball.
It seems like he's been one of these guys that's been around forever. Isaac Lowe, and he's only 28. It seems like somebody's been fighting for 15 years. That's interesting. Thanks for that, Elliott. Paul, I'm going to come to you. When I was looking through Isaac Lowe's record today, this might surprise the both of you. It seems as though his best win might be Ireland's Marco McCullough, who was 14-2 at the time. Now, you think, surely not. probably beat, with the greatest respect, better guys than that, but he's not. He drew with Dennis Salen over in Denmark. I think that was a European title fight. He's drawn with Ryan Walsh. You know, he's not had the career, so I kind of thought that he'd maybe fought some more names than what he has. I think the question that I want to come to you with, Paul, is I want to know more about Nick Ball. You have went out and you've told me, you messaged me in private and you said, Greg, watch Nick Ball. I want to know why. What is it that I'm missing here that is going to happen on Saturday night?
Cheers for that, Greg. Yeah, I just think I obviously, you know, I've interviewed Nick, and ahead of this fight, we've got interviews with both Isaac Lowe and Nick Ball on the channel, so check them out. But yeah, I think he's kind of, it's really difficult to say because I interviewed him about 2 years ago or a year and a half ago before, and that was one of the second last fight there. So he hasn't been that active recently. But I know for a fact that there's not a day that goes by that he's not in the gym. He is the definition of a gym rat. If you follow his Instagram and his Twitter and stuff, you want to see his numbers and all of these sprints and all the machines and everything in the gym. He's an absolute fitness freak. So there's no question over the 12 rounds, I don't think. I think he's more than fit enough to do that. Another thing is some people say he's quite small. He's quite small compared to everyone else in this division. However, he's used to fighting those bigger guys. And he's very, very stocky as well. And he's got half of his wins by knockout, but a lot of his fights have been 4 and 6 rounders. So against durable opponents who are just there to get through to the final bell. So sometimes they're actually, as you know as well, Greg, and they're sometimes a lot harder to break down. So I think that the step up in opponent, this is definitely a big step up. It's a huge step up from what we've seen of him before. And I think that will 100% bring out the best in him. I think as well, if you're looking at it from the Isaac Lowe perspective as well, I'm thinking, I would always have said that I think Nick Ball would win, but I wouldn't have necessarily said by stoppage. But then I'm looking at Isaac Lowe's defeat last time, and it was a stoppage defeat, so he can clearly be hurt, and I think Nick Ball has more than enough power to be able to exploit that. So I could see Ball definitely picking up a mid to late round stoppage here, and what would be an absolutely massive statement performance.
Amazing. I was looking forward to hearing that because you've been mentioning Nick Ball, but I've been meaning to get back in touch with you and say, what is it about him, because I've not really seen much of him. Elliott, were you surprised that, I know that you're not a big social media guy, but were you surprised that Isaac Lowe lost his last fight? There seemed to be this, I don't know if you guys seen it, but there was this energy on Twitter where a lot of people around the boxing game were saying Isaac Lowe's getting stopped tonight. And I was like, God, man, he's fighting a guy with 2 losses on his record. He's not really fought a hugely high level. I wonder how so many people know this, but were you expecting that? Did you know anything about his opponent when he was going into the last fight with him?
I was not expecting it at all, to be honest, no. I thought, if you're looking at, when Isaac Lowe was building, to be honest, coming into that, just looking record-wise, he was building quite a nice bit of momentum. He was beating, obviously before the loss, he fought a guy who had a 2-5 record, so you kind of discount that essentially. But he was cutting that fight as well, but it was a head clash. But then you're looking at, before that, he was actually fighting guys with sort of 25-5, 25-4 sort of records, 14-1 sort of records. So I was sitting there looking at him going, actually, like you were saying, like, he was what, 20, he must have been sort of 26, 27 sort of years old. And you're sort of thinking, hold on, he's actually building some good momentum at a good age here. I mean, like you, I was just thinking he's been fighting for so long, he must be sort of mid-30s almost. When I was surprised at that, because you're looking at that, and that, again, it was over here, like you're looking at York Hall as well, but it's one of those like Mexican guys where you kind of think you can't fucking predict what happens when they fight Mexican guys. Yeah. They seem to get them over here like from their conveyor belt, and even guys that are like, I mean, he didn't even have big KO percentage, that guy. I think it was something like 13 KOs and maybe like 50%. I mean, compared to obviously thinking like maybe Lowe could take him the rounds essentially. So I was shocked. at that, and I think in some ways it has obviously stung the momentum behind Isaac Lowe, but equally he's got this opportunity to fight now, obviously for the vacant silver featherweight title. So this for me is probably a bigger fight for Isaac Lowe career wise than it is for Nick Ball, just because I think just the volume of fights he's had, the expectation is probably on him, and also I suppose the pressure of fighting under Fury. And essentially, maybe some people have been saying, not me necessarily, but saying that you've got the opportunity because obviously you're essentially so close to Fury to be on those sort of cards and that promotional banner. I think it's a massive fight. This is a massive fight for Isaac Lowe, in my opinion.
Do you feel like that last fight has showed weakness to Lowe's body?
Yeah.
Because obviously the opponent targeted a lot and he was down. I think he was down. Paul, did you catch that fight? Was he down 1 or 2 times to the body?
Yeah, I
He's
think
down
he
twice. Yeah, down twice.
Yeah.
First and second. Yeah, and I'm looking at it. At that point, you're looking at it and going. I mean, coming to this fight, as well, you're looking. Isaac Lowe's not a known puncher, is he? I think he's got what, like 5-6 knockouts in his 20-odd fights. So yeah, that one makes it intriguing when Paul's saying, because I think Paul might stop him. I don't see it. It's either going points or a Paul stoppage. I don't think Isaac Lowe will stop Nick Paul, frankly, with the way he goes.
Yeah. Well, final question on it, guys. It's for the WBC silver featherweight title. Elliott, I want to know who wins, and are they ready for the British title after this?
I think Isaac Lowe will win. I think it's going to be points, personally. And yeah, I think honestly after this, I think I'd like to see him in that sort of. I'd like to see him, to be honest with you, fight some guys that are kind of known around to sort of British audiences as well. He's had a lot of guys essentially coming from sort of like that sort of. I suppose he's been fighting American cards, so essentially like Mexican guys, Spanish guys, whatever, that kind of aren't well known. I'd like to see him get him in a British fight, to be honest, fight a reputable opponent that we know over here.
Yeah. Paul, you've got a relationship with both. Am I allowed to ask you who wins and what they go into next? Can they challenge for a British title?
I think this will be the coming out party for Nick Paul. I think he'll win by stoppage. Could see it being to the body again. Don't quote me on that. I'm not saying that's definitely going to happen, but I definitely think he will stop him. Whether it's to the body or head, it remains to be seen. But yeah, ball stoppage, probably around the 6 to 8 mark, around those rounds, and the mid to late rounds, I could see it happening. So yeah, I think this is definitely one to keep an eye on.
And can they go on to challenge for the British title if it's Nick Paul?
Yeah, definitely. I think Paul, if he does win this fight, I think that's a fight that he should be looking for next. Because Isaac Lowe definitely would be a great name to have in his record. So I think that if he does win this fight, then he should be shouting from the rooftops for a British title fight all day long.
God, you guys have given me a bit of buzz for this fight, and I didn't have a single buzz before I even started talking about it. So thanks very much for that, guys. Really interesting stuff. Paul, going to come to you now. I believe that you have got a fight to tell us that's went under the radar that's coming up.
Yeah, so just quickly to finish, obviously you look at, it's all about Fury Whyte this weekend, but there is a show, and it has probably slipped under the radar of most boxing fans, and it comes on Friday night. It's a Parabellum show in Liverpool from the M&S Bank Arena, previously known as the Echo Arena, and it comes in the bantamweight division, where you've got John Riel Casimiro, who is fighting Paul Butler for the WBO bantamweight title. Obviously Casimiro, he's 31-4, 21 knockouts in his 31 wins. Then you look at Butler, who's 33-2, 15 of his 33 wins have come with knockout. You look at Butler, and you do make, I think Casimiro is like 1-20 to win this fight. But you look at Butler, and his 2 losses have come in elite company. Zolani Tete and Manny Rodriguez. There's 2 losses. So they're high class operators. But then you look at Casimiro, and since that Charlie Edwards win, he's lost once since then. But his recent fights, like he beat Guerrero Rigondo last time. It was a wee bit of a controversial decision. Some people thought it was, but it was a close fight. He beat Tete, he knocked him out. He was rumored to meant to be fighting Nonito Donaire. That hasn't happened in the Battle of the Philippines. But yeah, I think it's definitely, it'll be good to see Casimiro over on UK shores. And I just kind of want your guys' thoughts on the fight and whether you make it really competitive at all. I'll come to you first, Elliott.
I think record-wise, it's a competitive fight in the sense you look at obviously the number of losses, the number of victories, and Casimiro has been beaten, like you say. But I was looking at it from regards to sort of prediction perspective, and you just look at the guys that Casimiro's been in with relatively recently, like you say, Rigondo. He's beaten Tete, obviously, Duke Mika, those sort of guys, that sort of level. And Butler, frankly, hasn't been in the same sort of company, opponent-wise. So, I mean, I'm not going. I think, to be honest with you, I think it won't be a disgraceful mismatch by any stretch of the imagination. But I do expect another Casimiro stoppage. I think he's like 60% knockout rate or something. I can see it being another knockout victory for Casimiro, to be honest. And like you were saying there, Paul, I'd like to echo the fact that it's just great to have these sort of fighters coming over and fighting on these shores.
And Greg, what do you think? Do you agree with Elliott? Do you think that it will end up in a Casimiro knockout? Will it perhaps be a lot earlier and a wee bit more one-sided than Elliott thought, or could you see it being more competitive?
I think Casimiro will stop him inside 7, Paul. I just think with the greatest of respect, I don't know what the point in Paul Butler's career's been since 2018. Honestly, guys, go and look at his record. He's fought nobody. You've went for a guy who was fighting Tetty, fighting for was it the bantamweight? No, he was super flyweight world champion, wasn't he? And then he stepped up and challenged for bantamweight and he lost it. Like, you're going from that to being on these MTK shows and like fighting takeover fights on Joe Gallagher's shows and things like. What is he doing? Like, I don't know. Like, has he been injured a lot and I've missed something? But since 2018, he's not really fought anybody, and that is with the greatest of respect. So, based on his experience, he could see it out to the halfway stage and have a bit of success, especially if he's got that bit of fear in the belly. It's a world title fight, so yeah, he's probably going to go for it. But Casemiro should just be a little bit too powerful, too clever for him, I think. I don't think, for me, I just feel that the desire with Paul Butler might not be there and hasn't been for a few years. But do you know what? Good luck to him. I hope he shocks me, but I just see see Casemiro inside 7.
So you've kind of given us 2-1 there, Greg. You think Casemiro in 7, so that's your prediction. Elliot, if I'm going to ask you for a final prediction, what are you saying?
To be honest, I agree with Greg. I mean, I don't think it'll be like, and when I said disgraceful mismatch, I don't think Butler's going to get sort of stopped very, very early, but I still think he'll get stopped first half, probably somewhere first, like Greg said, within 7. I'd back that as well.
Yeah.
Again, you look at the opponents he's fought, and like Greg's saying, like so many sort of lost or pointless kind of contests, 6-rounders, 8-rounders against guys with
kind of, his career's froze.
One of them
it's completely
like
froze.
16 wins, 71 losses. What is that essentially? But I still think he's a good fighter. I still don't think he'll get blitzed, but I think he'll get stopped at some point.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll happen in the first half. Can probably eliminate the first 2-3 rounds, but you know, if it was 4th round onwards, I could see it definitely being a Casemiro stoppage for sure.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, guys. I mean, we've gone on. I think we've gone on a bit longer than expected. About that sort of half-hour mark. We've lasted longer than Dillian Whyte probably will on Saturday. But I think we're looking forward to that fight. Thanks very much, guys. Check out our content, obviously, on the channel. We've got Greg's prediction video, written prediction team from everyone in the team, interviews, pre-fight, fight week, everything coming up, previews, reviews, everything. So yeah, check that out on YouTube channel and other social media channels. And we look forward to checking in next week. Thanks very much, guys, for joining me. Thank you very much.